what I'd like to do is ask everyone to do something a little different tonight. Imagine that there are only two people in this room, you and me, so that I'm speaking directly to you. And what I'm going to do is take you inside of two or three things. One is the kind of decisions and approaches that people take in business that they will not talk about. People will not give away their competitive edge. I'm going to talk about that tonight. Also, I'm a business and sports psychologist. I work with professional athletes, and I find a difference between sports and business is really speed. Sports happens faster. That's about all it is. So if you take a look at the sheet that's on your table, I gave that to you so that you can make a brief note, because I know I'm not going to have 5 hours to talk here tonight. John assured me that he dragged me off here kicking and screaming. But again, if something comes up on that list that I talk about, that you want to talk to me about, my number's on the other side. You give me a call and we'll chat about it. But we're looking at the myths that people use running businesses. Not only your business, but the people you are trying to promote and pitch to. Do you really have 30 seconds for an elevator pitch? I don't think so. You really only have 6 seconds. So what can you do to knock your pitch down to become compelling in 6 seconds? What I do with people is they say to me, what do you do? And I say, it's funny. I laugh a little bit. I said, I sell mistakes. Nobody has ever walked away when I said that I sell mistakes. I think everybody here sells mistakes. What do you prevent people from doing that would cost them a fortune? The next thing is that the next myth is that people are selling on features and benefits. Here are the features and benefits of what I do. That's great, but it's not the way the brain works. Let me talk to you about how the brain works. When you're pitching to somebody, whatever your project is, you're talking about 3 things: skepticism, reactance, and inertia. Skepticism is that they may be skeptical about your proposal for a variety of reasons. There's a way to control that. The thing to do is to get the person to displace that to another time. So if I was talking to you tonight about skepticism, I'd say, take your calendar out, put down December 15th, and decide to try whatever I'm suggesting tonight until December 15th, then become skeptical. Reactance is different. People don't want to be sold. You don't want to be sold. The people you're talking to don't want to be sold. The third thing is inertia. What is it that's holding people back from making a decision that you truly believe with your expertise they should be making? What they've discovered with research is that if somebody can identify what the skepticism, reactance, and inertia might be with what you're trying to present, and you present that before you even start, you get a 30 to 50% higher close rate on a deal. Because people's subconscious mind, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about that tonight, the minute they become skeptical, normally they would shut you down. But when you've told them that they're going to become skeptical, the minute that happens, they go, oh, he already told me that. Plus, I have December 15th on the calendar. So it gives you an opportunity to get your information across. Every one of my clients today is in 2025 working backwards. I only work backwards. And there's a variety of reasons for that. A lot of the work I do with athletes, student athletes, professional athletes, is dealing with their subconscious mind. How do you get them to think about stuff? Well, it's interesting. If you want to try to close somebody today in 2019 on a deal, what you're going to wind up with is dealing with the present. But what if you took them out to 2025? And he said, give me an idea of what 2025 looks like. I give you a magic wand, you wave it, and in 2025, tell me what you're looking at. What's going to happen? What happens is the subconscious mind takes care of that. It moves you out there. And the other thing about it is the subconscious mind must act out every thought, image, or idea you put into its head, and it will follow along unless you get in its way. My business, the business guys and the athletes, is to keep them out of their own way. So how does that work? I have a kid who's right now the top catcher in college baseball. He went to his mother when he was 8 and he said, Mommy, what am I going to do if the Red Sox draft me? I want to play for the Yankees. So she said, why don't we wait till he get a little older? But long story short, he just turned down the Pittsburgh Pirates. as a third-round draft pick. He played for the Yankees scouts team at Yankee Stadium and hit a home run in Yankee Stadium. And so he realized his dream. A lot of the people I deal with, particularly student athletes, and even adults, have not been permitted to dream. Dreaming has seemed like a distraction. So what's the invisible dynamic that really works on your behalf? It's a dynamic called short-term discomfort versus long-term regret. I may not want to deal with Dan now with his sons, but you know what I don't want? I don't want to be in 2025 looking backwards, wishing that I did. And that's invisible. You can't mention that. You can't say that, but there are ways to present that in presentations when they're planned and structured. What gets in the way? What gets in the way of presentations? Distractions, self-talk, black swans, and worry. Let me start out with distractions. Everybody would sit up straight in your chair for a minute. I want you to try something. Start to move your right foot clockwise, round and round, round and round, round and round, round and round, round and round. And with your right hand, draw a big number 6 in the air. See your foot go backwards? Yes. So my question for you is this. Can you afford 1 second of distraction when you're trying to pitch or something else? You know, you'll go into an office to present to someone, and they're sitting behind their desk. And in the middle of your presentation, they'll look at something on their computer screen and say, just a minute, I want to do this, and type in it. What happens is people think you can continue on going on the way you were. You can't, because they've stopped. They've shut you off. They're on a different track. So you may have to even start over completely. When I spoke to Chad Pennington, incidentally, I have my book here. Chad wrote the forward to the book. We're going to auction it off tonight. But when I said to Chad, what do you want to have happen? He said to me, I want to increase my concentration. I said, what causes you to lose your concentration? He said, I get distracted. I said, what distracts you? He said, the way I talk to myself. So how important is that? How many people here have heard somebody tell you what they don't want to have happen? I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. Well, it's interesting. All your performance, particularly an athlete, has all their performance in their subconscious mind. Subconscious mind never understands a negative command. It hears it the opposite. So let's go back to some memorable football games. Let's look at the Giants and the Patriots, the first time they played. Patriots have 18 straight games, won. Somebody said to me, who do you think is going to win? I said, I think the Giants are going to find a way to win. And the Patriots are going to find a way to lose. Why? Because Belichick was saying, we don't want to lose this game. When you have somebody telling yourself what they don't want to have happen, the subconscious mind is hearing the exact opposite. Anybody here play golf? Okay. Try to. Well, I'll give you a golf tip before we leave. But tee a ball up over a water hole and say, I don't want to hit the ball in the water. Where's it go? Right in the water. So the point is that's what happens. But these are the little dynamics, little things that happen in the course of people doing business. Self-talk is unbelievable. People have to be, what I would do with Chad was when they published the football schedule for the year, I'd say, let's go down a whole list of games that you're going to be playing. I'm going to give you the name of the team. You tell me the score of the game. And he'd tell me the score of the game. And then I'd say, tell me the first word that comes into your mind when you hear this word, when you hear the team. And they would come back, and what we find out frequently is they would be taking something that happened in the previous game and bringing it into this game. And so it's giving somebody control over their self-talk. Black swans is stuff that gets in the way that you have no idea is there. It will derail you. I had a guy that came to me for business negotiations in the city. He was one of the biggest commercial real estate developers in the city. And he was working on some negotiations. He said, by the way, he says, I'm a 12 handicap golfer. I can't play well 50 yards in all the time. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. He said, but I have no idea when I can play well, why? And only 50 yards in. Well, what we discovered after using some hypnosis over a period of time, we discovered that the only time he can't play well is when he plays against somebody who makes more money than he does. This guy makes high 7 figures. So we had to put together a strategy for him to be able to decontaminate his self-talk based on that money. I had a woman who was a top saleswoman in financial, in a dress and women's clothing manufacturing business. And her boss said to me, she's great except with one person. She can't close a person. So I talked to her for a while. And in the course of our conversation, she said to me, it's the suit. I said, what do you mean the suit? This woman routinely wear a $5,000 money suit. The suit turned her off. So it did something to her. But the point is, unless you identify these black swans that you really don't expect to be there, it can get in your way. The other thing is worry. Anybody here worry? I have a worry strategy. Let's say you picked a time of day, 5 to 5:15, where you were going to do absolutely nothing but worry. So you go sit in the corner and you start to worry. If you don't have anything to worry about, give me a call and give you a list. But the point is that worry can distract you. But if you put a time of day, 5 to 5:15, and you're worrying during the day, it's robbing your time. So what if you just went 5:15, 5:15, 5:15? Your subconscious mind will move it over. Preparation for competition. A lot of people don't prepare to compete today. I'm going to give you an example. My key example of preparation for competition is Super Bowl III with Joe Namath and the Colts. Dave Herman was a right guard that protected Joe Namath and Bubba Smith. Dave was 6'2", 250. Bubba Smith was 6'7", 365. So I said to him, how are you able to do that? He said, I watch game films. I said, what did you watch for? I figured it was formations. He said, no. He said, I figured when a guy that big has got to move forward, he's got to be standing on one foot just a little bit longer than everybody else. So I never waited for the ball to be snapped. He said, I just waited till his toe came up. Because I know he wouldn't move until the ball was snapped. And so every time his toe came up, I said I caught him on 1 foot every single time. Do you profile a person you're going to talk to before you go in? Do you understand what he needs to have happen? That it has nothing to do with your product. It has to do what he needs to have happen for his career and his future. I find that with sports coaches all the time. So the point is that how does that fit in? I help people to put those presentations together. The next thing on the list is conversion. Yes?
So when you're pitching to the CFO to do a major expenditure, when you're a facility manager, you better know what is going to make him look good, right?
Exactly. Or what's going to make him look bad. What he needs to have happen. But that requires you to look at the company and say, where is this guy? Is he getting ready to move out? Is he looking to move up? Is he looking for a lateral move? Is there somebody biting on his heels coming up? And then who does he have to pitch up to? Yes?
Where do you acquire that intel?
You would be surprised how much you know about it already from the people you're talking to, but you talk to people about it. You might go on LinkedIn, you might see what his background is. You might find out what he says. I'm trying to give a good example of profile. I did a lot of work with Hewlett Packard globally, with senior executives right underneath Carly Fiorina. And we worked with them before the merger with Compaq. And their big concern was, what happens to me if Compaq sends their replacement and my counterpart in and takes my job? So we did a couple of things. We set up safety nets. Each one of these guys started their own consulting company. In their mind, they started to research people around them who could help them should they move out. But what happened was we put together another strategy where when their sales team would go out to a major buyer of HP products, the CEO of that division, like the guy I worked with, ran the Czech Republic. So he'd go out with them and he'd make an appointment with the CEO of the company where they were visiting. And he'd say, look, let's forget right now. I forget what the year was. It was 10 years ago. He said, take me out and tell me what your objectives are. What do you think your challenges are going to be 5 years from now? Well, why do you want to know that? You're here to sell us some products now. He says, no, we want to put together a product that you're going to need for the challenges you think you're going to face. And this was strategic. So what started to happen was these guys would say to them, look, if HP is stupid enough to let you go and bring somebody else in, make me your first phone call. They were getting job offers left and right. Also, people knew a couple of things, is that the guy he's sitting talking to from HB really had his butt covered. This guy's going to cover my back no matter what happens, because he's thinking about me. He's not thinking about selling a product. So how do you get that message across? I have a client who held a springboard diving championship in New York City for 4 years. He owns a bank now. He's a financial advisor and a CPA. I said to him, John, what's the difference between springboard diving and business? He says, absolutely nothing. It's all the same. He said, my dives are always the same, but the water is always different. Now, it would never occur to me, but the water was always different for him. There were no two people you're going to pitch that are exactly the same. And routinely, sales and marketing teams send people in to pitch the same pitch. So people are really, really used to pitches and closing in it. So when people say to me, how do you close a deal? I said, I don't close anybody. Everybody closes themselves. They either work with me or they don't. If they think I'm going to be able to help them get to where they want to get and be competitive and be different than their clients, then they'll hire me. If not, they won't. And my question always is that I talk to people all the time about this. Would you rather have somebody say, I want to hire you? Or would you rather have them say, I don't want to not hire you? That's the more powerful message. Because, today people talk about satisfied clients. There was a book written some years ago called The Satisfied Client is Worthless. The most valuable thing is a loyal client, somebody who realizes you have their back. So that's the preparation for competition. But people are winging it all the time. Conversion and poaching is very interesting. Everybody here and everybody you talk to is in a conversion process. How do I convert somebody from another provider to me? And how do I prevent people from poaching my business? Most people think that happens by accident or attrition or after somebody is routinely dissatisfied with what's going on. I don't think that's happening. I think there's a strategy that people can put together to convert people, to get them to say, this guy is really very different than everybody else. Now, if you have not read the Blue Ocean Strategies, anybody read the Blue Ocean Strategies? Make that the next book you read, because it shows you where everybody who's in your field is in the red ocean, and your objective is, how do I get into the blue ocean where I have no competition? And where people believe that and think that when they think about it. So the next piece down here is money and mistakes. I wrote an article called Is Money and Mistakes, because I believe that it's really important. Somebody said, why would anybody want to buy a mistake? A, because they don't want to make it themselves. It's a lot less expensive to buy somebody else's mistakes than to make your own. If I said to you say to me, I'm driving from here to LA with my family, and I say, I have a list of all the radar traps between here and LA. Do you want to buy that list now, or do you want to wait until you get to LA to buy it? No, you want to buy it now. And so the fact is, all of you are sitting with solutions for the people you're trying to pitch to, who, for a variety of reasons, don't know what to do, are afraid to make a deal. You're putting stuff on their table and asking them to sell your product up to somebody, which is extraordinarily difficult to do. And that brings me back to another thing. I have a philosophy that I want to start at the very top of a company. I want to start with the guy who has to make the decisions. I don't want to have to rely on somebody else to sell my product up. So I discovered a strategy that's very interesting. No matter how much money you make, you can't buy strokes off your golf game. And if you don't play golf, it's almost impossible for you to sell your product or your business or your services using golf, except with this. I guarantee golfers 3 to 6 strokes off their golf game without ever touching the club. And it's done in a room like this, in this kind of a setting, but it's done with a unique strategy. People will, I'll tell you, Everbank in Jersey wanted to get a higher profile with Xerox in Virginia. And so they asked me, how can I help get these guys into these companies? They're batting off against low-level decision makers, people who, for a variety of reasons, don't want to let them in. And I said, why don't we start at the very top? Why don't we start at the CEOs of those companies? So they very simply followed a formula. It's got to be followed like baking a cake. They call their existing clients, they mine their existing client base, and they said, listen, we know you play golf. We're going to do two things. We're going to do a program. We're going to guarantee you strokes off your golf game. And we're not pitching our business at all. There will be no sales. You can't buy a thing from us. And when we set the facility up, all of the Xerox equipment was covered with sheets. Drove the salespeople crazy. But the point is that these guys came. Then they went back to the people they invited with a second offer. They said, we're going to give you the opportunity to entertain your clients at our event. Because it's not going to be a timeshare presentation. We're going to set this thing up to do it. Long story short, we got 200 CEOs in 2 days that came into this facility. And it was amazing. The other thing that happened was intriguing. When I was down in Virginia, in Manassas, the guy said to me, I belong to a Rotary Club. I can't talk to my Rotary Club about what I do. He said, I wonder if you could talk to them about what I do. I said, well, about what you do. So I went and I talked to 60 people in the Manassas Rotary Club about competitive edge strategies for professional athletes, student athletes. I talked about the variety of athletes that I work with, the student athletes, and I can talk a little bit about that. But the point is that we really got them to come in and do this and set this thing up correctly. So it was a way for them to get. Now, how does it go from doing a corporate event like this? Let's say I said for a minute, John has got a list of mistakes that he is not going to let you make if you sit down and meet with him. So it may be in your best interest to call John and ask him for the mistakes, to see his mistakes list. That completely reversed the whole process of this meeting. Because what happened is the people who were at the meeting with the golf thing said, they were coming up to the sales guys and saying, when can we meet with you to see this mistakes list? Because we made the mistakes list so compelling for them to do that. And then the question is every one of you has a mistakes list. Your clients have given you a tremendous marketing tool. And here's how to start to capitalize on it. Make a list of the top mistakes your clients have made before they became your client and what it cost them in money, emotion, and reputation. Maybe take some research to do it. But then you start to sell, rather than the solutions, which everybody is selling, you sell the mistakes that you're not going to let somebody make. It's a strategy, but it's a psychologically designed strategy. Give you an example. I wrote an article called A $350,000 Handshake. I have an attorney I work with. He said to me, I have a client right now who started a business with his partner about 10, 15 years ago on a handshake. He said, now the whole company is coming down, and it's going to cost my client $350,000 because he didn't get legal papers drawn up to establish this thing. And so, how do you separate yourself quickly from your competition? You read the Blue Ocean Strategies, get some structure on this, and find out what you do differently. And then instead of selling what everybody else is selling, sell the solution, sell the mistakes. Because people don't want to make them, and nobody will. If you say to somebody, if John said, I do flooring, what we do is we sell mistakes. Who's walking away? What are you talking about? You guys who are on this business. What mistakes do people make not working with John? And then the last question on this list is, what does it cost the company not to retain you? I don't know. You want to ask that question? What does it cost somebody not to retain you? It's tied into the mistakes. So to give you an example of how this mistakes piece works, I wrote this article. Anybody who wants to email me, I'll send you the mistakes list and the article. And I have about 35 mistakes that people made before they came to me. One of them is speed dial. Why is not being on speed dial a mistake? Well, when somebody has a problem with a facility or the kind of things you deal with, you want it to be able to get you on a cell phone. You don't want that to dial 800. I have a client who sells copy and printer machines. This is a great example. He said to me, I have a client who called me on a Saturday afternoon. The guy sells puppies. He said he had his office full of parents, little kids holding the puppies that they wanted to take home, and his printer stopped working. And he couldn't print out the contracts he needed to take the puppies home. You don't want to be that guy with these kids in the room. I can't take my puppy home. So he said these people had a choice. They call an 800 number or they call me directly. And that's what they get. So that's the kind of things we talk about. So it's how do you put this together where you realize the way the brain works and you pitch that stuff, but people are willing to spend a fortune to figure why something didn't work. Many, many people don't want to spend anything to figure how to make it work before I start. The thing that's missing, the missing factor in a lot of what I do is the profile. You profile somebody, you figure out what they want to do, and then you use your research or however you can do it. And maybe you have nothing, but at least looking, you get you better off. How are we doing, John? We on time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay. This is my book, Click. We're going to auction this off tonight. It's competitive edge strategies with business, sports, and entertainment. I met yesterday with a young woman who's 22. She's a D1 lacrosse player. And in 15 minutes at breakfast, we set up a company for her when she finishes college. Kids are trying to pass bar exams. They're trying to do well in college to get into high schools, into colleges, prep schools, to be selected. 2 of my grandchildren are hockey goaltenders, and I had them at the Islander goaltender camp. And the coach who I knew said to me, he said, I have a parent here, my assistant is one of the best hockey players in Nassau County. He's got people looking at him already for college. He's driving his parents nuts. He said, so the father retained me. He said, could you help me with my son? I said, sure. I said to the kid, what's going on? He said, my parents are up my butt for my grades. I said to him, why does that bother you? I said, your parents don't make any difference. He said, well, who makes a difference? I said, the goalie coach in the college you want to go to, who will not recruit you if you can't stay academically eligible. The kid turned around and he realized, like all these kids, every one of your kids that play a sport are in business for themselves. They're running their own business. They're the CEOs of their own company. And when you can get them to do that, that's a tremendous thing. Whoever wins the book, my instruction is don't read it. Go down a table of contents, scroll a table of contents, and your subconscious mind will tell you exactly what you need to read for the next deal that you're going into. It's amazing how that works. So trust your training, trust your subconscious mind, trust all the knowledge you have in it. I'm available for, we don't have time for questions, but if somebody has any other questions, you have my number, give me a call, say I saw you at IFMA, and ask me the question. If something's going on, and I learned one other thing about questions at events like this. I did a program for 95 of the country's top hockey goaltenders about 10 years ago. And I gave it was an hour and a half clinic. And when it was over, I said, are there any questions? No questions. And I figured, oh, God, what did I do wrong? It's an hour and a half and no questions. When the program was over and I was packing up, there were a list of 40 kids against the wall and said, I would never ask a question in front of people I'm competing against. So, if you have questions that you want to ask, well, give me a call and ask me. So I can tell you in 5 minutes if I can help you now. Yes, John.
Comment to the question. I did business about 12 years ago. The guy's retired. He was the head of facilities, and how he sold the CFO on making these improvements, boilers, and some big capital expenditures, was not based on what they were going to get out of it. It was based on fear of what would occur. Time down, you couldn't get into the building, things like that to a CFO. And the CFO looked at it, it's like self-preservation.
It was self-preservation. The question the CFO is going to say, if something happens and people can't get in the building, what am I going to say to my CEO? How embarrassed am I going to be? What's it going to do to my reputation? What it's going to cost me? And this goes right up the line for high school coaches, college coaches, anybody in business. They're making the decisions all the time, and they don't want to get caught. And your business is really making sure they don't.
I have one quick one. This is it's kind of self-serving, but we do all the homestead stores. Those are
You do what?
Homesteads. It's 40,000 square feet. So the people above, the CFO, CEO decided They're gonna say, we want to do polished concrete, right? Well, their first store, somebody tripped. Within 5 days, they had 3 copycat stores. They decided, from, like you said, the facility manager said, we need to do a flooring, might look like concrete, but it's got texture to it. It was a big expenditure. But they weigh that to look at, do we want to look like a outlet store? Do we want to have these issues with insurance? Because it's not just people falling, the insurance goes through the roof. And they went that way. And they did it, and the facilities people said, basically, I told you so from day one.
Well, you know, I have a client who's an employment attorney, and she said to me, I have a lot of difficulty in getting people to do corporate manuals, training manuals, because it's required now, and applies particularly sexual harassment training now.
Yeah,
So I said, she said, how can I sell my concept to a group of attorneys at a big meeting? She said, I try to pitch my business. I said, no. I said, get a pair of dice and go in and shake the dice and throw it down the middle of the table. And then don't say anything. She says, I'm an attorney. I can't do that. I said, sure you can, because that's really what they're doing. They're rolling the dice on whether it's going to happen or not. So it's how do you put that out there? I did a program for an accounting firm in the city, and there were 40 partners. And the guy said to me, you know, he said, our senior partner, who's a curmudgeon, is going to sit next to you and break your chops the whole presentation. So at the very end, he said to me, so what are you going to do to help us bring in more clients and enhance our image in the accounting field? I said, I got off the elevator and I said, your name is emblazoned in big carved gold letters over the reception desk. He said, and so? I said, why don't you go get an orange prison jumpsuit, hang it right off those letters so that when people get off the elevator, they see the prison jumpsuit with a sign that says, we're never going to let you put this on. He said, you're crazy. I said, yeah, but nobody will ever forget it. Any other questions? Call me if you have a question. I'll be happy to answer.